Eric used to say we were a team. "Everything I build, we build," he'd whisper, while I typed edits into his cover letters at 2 a.m. I believed him. I worked overtime to pay rent so he could focus on grad school. I polished his pitch decks, wrote mock interview questions, and even coached him through answering behavioral prompts. When he landed an interview at Valiant Systems, a company known for chewing people up and spitting them out, I stayed up 3 nights helping him prep. He got the job. I cried. Not because I was proud, but because it felt like we'd both won. "Just hold on," he said. "A few years, and we'll run this world together." I quit my job to move cities with him. He promised me I'd have time to figure out my next step. "Don't stress, babe. This is our investment stage." I made the new apartment feel like home, supported every late night and every missed date. I told myself he was doing it for us, but slowly, the us faded. The late-night talk stopped. The thanks disappeared. And I became the invisible, hand behind the man who wouldn't even hold mine in public anymore. The first time I noticed the shift, we were at a work mixer. Eric introduced me to his boss with a strained smile. "This is Alex. She's in between things right now." I smiled politely, but my stomach sank. Between things? I had quit a solid job for him, designed his resume from scratch. I'd been between things because he asked me to believe in his future. I let it go, told myself he was nervous. Then it happened again, and again. I wasn't his partner anymore. I was his placeholder. A woman who filled the silence in his apartment and covered rent when his card declined. Once, I brought up the idea of starting my own consultancy again. He laughed. "Start small, babe, or someone like you will burn out." Someone like me. He used to admire my fire. Now he was pouring water on it. The final straw came late one night when I overheard him on a call. "She's comfortable. You know, good support. But she's not exactly long-term brand material." My ears burned. I stood frozen in the hallway, holding the dinner I had just reheated for the 3rd time. He wasn't embarrassed. He didn't even lower his voice. That night, I curled up, in bed next to a man who had already replaced me in his mind. And in the dark, I wished I had never helped him rise. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, the words "not brand material" echoing in my skull. I didn't know if it was rage or heartbreak, but something cracked wide open. I drifted into a heavy sleep sometime after 3 a.m., fully dressed, heart hollow. When I woke up, my phone buzzed beside me. A calendar alert. Eric's final Valiant interview, 10 a.m. today. I sat up slowly, waited for the ache in my chest to remind me this was real, but the ache wasn't there. Something felt different. I glanced at the clock. Same day, 5 years ago. My phone background still had our old apartment. The dishes weren't stacked from last night. The world hadn't moved forward. I had gone backward. My hands shook. I pulled up the browser. Eric's application was still open. His portfolio, draft, unfinished. My resume, still untouched by sacrifice. I stood, breath caught between disbelief and fire. I wasn't dreaming. I was being reborn, given the chance to choose differently. And this time, I wouldn't build someone else's future. I'd build my own. And if he ever crossed my path again, he'd walk right into the empire he stole from, now owned by me. I didn't cancel anything. Right away. I needed him to believe everything was the same. I got up, made coffee, kissed his cheek like before. He grinned. "Ready to go through my presentation again?" "Of course," I said. I smiled. Let him lead the conversation. Let him joke about me being his secret weapon. I wasn't mad, not anymore. I was methodical. and method beats emotion every time. While he showered, I logged into my email and retrieved a draft I had never sent, a business proposal for a hybrid consulting accelerator. It had gathered dust because Eric once called it too big, too complex. But reading it again, I saw the brilliance. It wasn't too big. It was his ego that was too small. That day, I started building. Quietly. I applied to 2 startup incubators, submitted a version of the pitch under my own name, and started revising my LinkedIn. While Eric prepped for his interview, I was quietly laying the first bricks of my own foundation. And the sweetest part? He had no clue. He walked around that apartment thinking I was his background character. He had no idea I was writing the script. And this time, I wasn't including him in the ending. While Eric practiced his speech in the living room, I quietly reconnected with my old mentor, Marla. She'd once told me, "If you ever want to build something real, call me." I had never called until now. She answered on the first ring. "You finally ready to stop shrinking?" she asked. I didn't explain everything, just said, "Yes." She sent me a list of early-stage angel investors and a heads-up about a women-led pitch event happening in 2 weeks. I registered under a pseudonym. The company name I gave them? Arcline Strategies. It was symbolic, a clean arc, a full circle. While Eric asked me to proofread his follow-up email to Valiant, I rewrote my pitch deck and secured a one-on-one call with a founder I had once helped, quietly, for free. He owed me, and this time, I was cashing in. I smiled while Eric thanked me for helping get him over the line. He thought we were still a team. He still joked about buying me a bag when the first bonus hits. I laughed along, but in my mind, I was already buying something better, my exit. One day, he'd walk into a room expecting a yes, and I'd be the one holding the pen that writes his no. Eric got the job at Valiant, just like last time. He danced around the kitchen with the offer letter while I toasted fake champagne and clapped like I had 5 years ago. "Couldn't have done it without you," he said. I smiled, leaned in, and kissed him, while knowing I was already building something that would make this moment feel tiny. I let him think I was in awe. But behind his back, I had already onboarded my first client through Arcline, a wellness founder who'd been burned by big firms. I offered strategic consulting, branding, and pitch coaching. Within 2 weeks, she got accepted into a major funding program. She credited me publicly. "Where did you come from?" the investor asked. "Someone overlooked me," I said. "So I built where I wasn't seen." Word spread. I signed 2 more clients under NDA, building slowly, privately, intentionally. Meanwhile, Eric's ego inflated. He started treating me more like a personal assistant than a partner. I let him. I took notes. I saved emails where he dismissed me, even one where he forwarded my feedback to a colleague as if it were his own. Proof. Not for confrontation, but for later. Because the woman he erased was no longer chasing justice. She was becoming inevitable. Arcline took off faster than I expected. The moment I stopped asking for permission to be brilliant, the world responded. Within 3 months, I had closed 5 consulting contracts and turned down 2 partnerships. My name started circulating in rooms I'd once been locked out of, not as someone's girlfriend, but as a force. But I kept things low-key. No photos, no LinkedIn updates. My clients respected the discretion. I told them I was in stealth mode, and they understood. Meanwhile, Eric complained about late nights and being underappreciated by his firm. He didn't know I was quietly consulting a Valiant competitor, helping them craft the very pitch that would win over Valiant's next major investor. When he vented about some mystery team that came out of nowhere, I nodded sympathetically. "Corporate politics are brutal," I murmured. But inside, I was smiling, because the game had changed. He used to walk into rooms on the back of my work. Now he was bumping into my shadow, and he had no idea. The world he thought he owned was slowly becoming mine, brick by brick, pitch by pitch. I wasn't just rebuilding. I was replacing with silence as my strategy. One morning, Eric brought home an event flyer. They're hosting a leadership panel, big names, Valiant's sponsoring. I might get to speak. I took the paper and froze. My company's name was on the bottom, as a gold-tier sponsor. My COO had submitted the partnership while I kept my CEO title hidden behind a generic name on our filings. Eric, of course, had never heard of Arcline. "Ever heard of them?" he asked. Sounds like some fresh consulting group trying to punch above their weight. I smiled faintly. New names make the best moves. He laughed. Sure, until they burn out. I stared at him, remembering every night I made sure he didn't. The irony was painful. Delicious, but painful. The event was in 3 weeks. I called my COO the next morning. I'll be attending under my real name this time. Make sure the panel roster is updated. She paused. Including the keynote? I nodded. Especially the keynote. If Eric thought he was climbing, he hadn't seen the cliff edge. And when he got there, I'd be waiting at the top with a smile, a mic, and the power to remind him exactly who he stepped on to get there. The venue gleamed with glass walls and marble floors, the kind of place built for first impressions and big egos. Eric adjusted his tie nervously. Big night, he muttered, glancing at his name on the printed program. Panelist, midsection. My name? Headlining. Not under Arcline, under mine. The name he once told me was too informal for executive spaces. As guests filed in, Eric floated around like a rising star. I watched from the balcony above, heels sharp, dress tailored to power. I waited until the lights dimmed and the host announced the evening's highlight. Please welcome our keynote speaker, founder and CEO of Arcline Strategies. There was a beat. Then my name echoed through the atrium. His head turned sharply, his face drained. And I walked down the stairs like I'd been born for it. The applause was thunderous, not because they knew what was about to happen, but because they could already feel it. A woman who had been invisible, now taking the stage like oxygen. I didn't look at him right away. I didn't need to. The silence around him was already louder than anything I could say. I took the podium and scanned the crowd. Investors, analysts, founders. I opened with a story. Not about him, about me. About how women are often the architects behind men's dreams, only to be pushed aside once the house is built. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. My words struck every man who had taken without crediting, every woman who had given and been forgotten. I saw heads nodding. I saw eyes widening. I saw Eric shift in his seat, pale and rigid. But I didn't stop. I described the years I spent building a business that no one saw coming. I told them the secret. I stopped trying to be included. I started building what I wasn't invited to. The room erupted. My COO caught my eye from the wings, grinning. I wrapped the speech with a promise, to build spaces where brilliance isn't borrowed and discarded. Then I stepped down, handed the mic off, and walked straight past Eric without a glance. He reached out, called my name. Alex, I didn't know. I smiled calmly. I know. That was all. I didn't owe him more. The panel ended in a blur, but the after-event mixer buzzed with energy, most of it circling around me. People I'd never met congratulated me, asked for cards, requested meetings. Meanwhile, Eric hovered near the bar like a man misplaced in his own fantasy. I saw him approach one of our investors, attempting a conversation. The investor smiled politely, and then nodded toward me. You really should have known who you were sitting beside all these years. That line gutted him. He walked up to me again, more desperate this time. Alex, we should talk. I turned slowly. About what? How you used me to land your dream and then tried to erase me from the narrative? His face flushed. That's not fair. I held his gaze. You're right, it wasn't, but it was accurate. Before he could speak, my assistant approached with a printed contract. He's here for the ARC line lateral interview, correct? I nodded. Eric looked at the folder, confused. What is this? I smiled. You wanted a future at the company I built. Consider this the final round. I walked him to a private room, cameras off, just us. His future, once powered by me, now in my hands. He sat across from me, suddenly aware of how small the chair felt. You really run this? He asked, voice lower. Every inch of it, I said, flipping open the file. Funny, you told your ex-colleagues I was between jobs. He winced. I didn't mean that the way it sounded. Oh, I know. Exactly how you meant it, I said calmly. You minimized me, lied about me, used my work as your stepping stone. So before we proceed, I have one question. If I weren't sitting in this seat, would you have ever acknowledged what I built? He didn't answer. He couldn't. I slid the contract toward him. There's an offer in there, for a role that matches your title, but not your power. He opened it, scanned, paused. This is entry level. I nodded. Correct. A support position, like the one I played for you. He looked up, stunned. You're serious? No, I said, standing. I'm not offering you anything. This interview was for you, so you could understand what it feels like to walk into a room built by someone you erased. Then I smiled. You're free to leave. And I turned, my back, just like he once did to me. Word spread quickly, not because I told anyone, but because people watched. They saw the man who once strutted through hallways now slip out quietly, uninvited, unseen. The next day, a tech blog ran a headline, CEO publicly outclasses X in unforgettable power move. I hadn't said a word. The world spoke for me, but I didn't gloat. That was never the point. I had already won the moment I stopped building castles for other people and started designing kingdoms with my own name on the gate. Eric never contacted me again, but I saw a post months later. He left the industry for a wellness sabbatical. The comments were dry, the likes were low, and I didn't feel smug. I felt untouched, because healing isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes it's about walking away so far they can't even see your shadow. I now run 3 branches of ARC Line. Our motto is simple. We don't build behind the curtain. We stand at the mic. My clients are mostly women who, like me, were once the silent partner behind someone else's story. Now they're the main character. I mentor them, train them, fund them, and I tell every single one, don't waste energy on revenge. Build so boldly that their memory fades into your rear view. That's what I did. Not because I needed him to suffer, but because I finally saw what I could create without waiting for someone to say I was allowed. And every time I see a woman hesitate, wondering if she's good enough, I hand her my old notes, the ones I used to write Eric's future, and say, this was never his. It was always yours. Their eyes light up, and the cycle ends there. So, if Eric ever tells the story his way, that I was cold, calculated, ruthless, let him. If he says I changed, he's right. I stopped being his shortcut, and I became the woman he'll never outrun. He used me to build his dream. Reborn. I built mine, and when he showed up, I fired him, publicly and politely, because power doesn't scream, it signs the checks.